Hello again, watch friends. Welcome back. In the late 1900s, 1970, 1980, maybe even into 1990, in northern New Jersey, there was a clothing store called Simms. And Simms sold clothing at a discount. They would buy clothes that were out of fashion, they would buy manufacturers' overstocks, and perhaps a few other categories. And the benefit was, as a consumer, you could get clothing, blouses, pants. They had men's and women's clothing, jackets, suits. You could get things 50% off, 60% off, 70% off, and it was really quite a bargain. And they used to advertise on local TV in the New York, New Jersey area that an educated consumer is our best customer. That was their mantra. And I think as watch collectors, we have to follow the same mantra. Because if we're not educated and we don't pay attention and don't do our research, don't understand, we can be taken advantage of. So that's what I want to talk about today, briefly, about when you buy watches from places like Chrono24 or Joma Shop. There are some things you have to watch out for, and you need to understand what they're actually doing. So let's start with Chrono24. Chrono24 is an excellent place to buy watches at a deep discount. I bought many watches there. Actually, I've sold a few watches there myself. But you really need to know what you're doing. So the reason that the prices are so good on Chrono24 in general are basically three categories, due to three categories. The first is they could be from a jewelry store that has an overstock. They have too many of a particular item, they can't sell it, so they try and sell it through Chrono24 at a steeper discount than they would in their store, assuming they have a storefront. And they may often have an arrangement with the watch brand that doesn't let them discount so deeply. So this is a way for them to move some merchandise that they couldn't or wouldn't be able to otherwise. Another example, another category of watches on Chrono24 is a manufacturer selling off old inventory. Manufacturers, especially, well, as we know, Swiss watch brands, they have, over the last many years, have really overstuffed the supply chain with watches. In many cases, they made too many watches. They can't sell them. They can't discount them because that would infuriate the people that already bought the watches at retail prices or slightly less than retail prices. So manufacturers may be selling off old stock or inventory that they need to move. And the third category, and this is really sort of a dirty little secret that we all need to understand, and that is when an old watch is sold as new. So it could be an old stock that's been sitting around for a few years, and I'll talk a little bit more about the categories, the condition labels of watches on Chrono24. But just because it says it's brand new doesn't mean it's brand new, fresh out of the factory. It could be a 10-year-old watch that hasn't been worn for 10 years, sat in a warehouse or on a retailer's shelf, or a private person for that matter, and therefore it isn't like a brand new watch, because it isn't a brand new watch, even though it's a new watch. So it could be old stock, it's been sitting around for years. The more deceitful category of old watches sold as new are watches that may be lightly worn, or rarely worn. Perhaps they get a new strap, a little bit of a polish, and they're sold as new. And clearly, they're not new, and it's a deceitful practice. So there's several categories of watches that appear on Chrono 24. Joma Shop is slightly different. Joma Shop, from what I understand, often doesn't have the watch that they're selling you. You buy the watch from them, and they go out and try and get it at the price that they quoted you. Of course, with Joma Shop, chances are the watch is brand new, but may also be old stock, so it may have been sitting around. And Joma Shop provides their own warranty. You don't get the manufacturer's warranty. That's also true with watches that you buy on Chrono 24. So here we are in Chrono 24. I did a search for a Parmigiani Fleurier Kalpa. This one came up. If you look at the details here, as we scroll down, you can see that there's the basic information. It's an automatic steel case, leather bracelet, leather strap, and here it says condition unworn. So, and it says new with box and papers. So if we and some other information as well. If we then go down to the bottom here to FAQs for Chrono 24, and we look at condition grades. So unworn, which is what this watch is brand new from old warehouse, brand new or new from old warehouse stock, or it could be a new item from old warehouse stock, may show slight traces of storage. So just because it's condition 0 unworn, as I mentioned before, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a brand new, fresh out of the factory watch. And then, of course, the grades go down. Condition 1 is mint condition, shows few signs of use, movement's in good condition, movement may have been serviced, and the watch may have been polished. Of course, you don't always get that information in the description of the watch. A legitimate dealer would tell you that. Some may not. And then we go down further to find. I probably wouldn't personally buy a watch in anything below fine condition, either fair, poor, scrap. Now, maybe if you were looking for a donor watch, let's say you were either a watchmaker or an amateur watchmaker enthusiast, and you needed a crystal or a case back or some piece of a watch for something you're working on, then maybe you could buy something in a lower condition grade, and that's usually called a donor watch because it's donating parts of it for another watch. Anyway, so those are the classifications, the conditions, things you can look for example, when you're buying a watch. Let's go back to our example here of this Parmigiani Kalpa. You can see that obviously you can see where the seller is, and there are certain countries that many people don't want to do business with, either because of import hassles, customs, that kind of thing, or just shady practices. So most people will stay away from perhaps India, Russia, and a few others. Secondly, if you look at the seller information, things to look for is how long has this seller been around, and this seller's only been around for a little more than a year, or maybe up to 2 years. How many watches have they listed? Have they gotten recommendations from other dealers? And how many watches have they sold via the trusted checkout. The trusted checkout on Cardinal24 allows you to have an intermediary where your funds are held until you receive the watch. Once you receive the watch, you let Cardinal24 know, and they release the funds to the seller. So just one more example here. If we look at, here's a Jaeger-LeCoultre Ultra master control date. If we look at this dealer, let me scroll down. This dealer has been around since 2010. They've listed over 400 watches. They've done 7 watches. So you can get an idea about the longevity of the seller, any kind of recommendations, where the seller is located, all important information. So things to do when you're buying a watch or considering buying a watch from Cardinal24 is to ask a lot of questions. Questions are free. If the seller is legitimate, the seller will answer them and provide more information if you want it. Look for positive reviews, as I mentioned, length of time they've been around, and ask for pictures. So in this case, like this particular watch, there's one picture. That doesn't give me a warm, fuzzy feeling. There really should be 6, 8, 10, dozens of pictures, however many it takes to show the piece. I'd like to see the size. I'd like to see the back. This is an open case back, this particular model. I'd like to see the movement. I'd like to know when was the last time this watch was serviced, if it was ever serviced. How's it running? There's a million questions you can ask, and you should do that up front. Going back to our Parmigiani, this too only has one picture. Not a good thing. I have one more here. Okay, look at this. This Jaeger-LeCoultre Ultra Reverso, this happens to be a quartz version, but you can see there are all kinds of pictures. There's side views, top views, bottom views, views of the documentation. They provide whatever they can. So this leads me to think that this seller either knows what they're doing or wants to make sure that whoever's going to buy this watch knows what they're getting. One other thing is often this happens to be a dealer in Germany, and I like to use Google Chrome as the browser, and Google Chrome lets you translate things to English in whatever language it is. So that's helpful. I've already done it here, obviously, because it is in English. Although you get some interesting, translations. So, in any case, those are some tips on Cardinal24, and Joma Shop, kind of the same thing. Joma Shop guarantees all their watches. As I said, they provide their own warranty, not the manufacturer's warranty, and you can go from there. So just a heads up on buying watches. Keep in mind that even if the watch is condition 0 unworn, doesn't mean it's a new watch. It can be many years old, in fact. So that's it. Remember, the truth is out there. It's just ready for you to find it. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.